Hello and welcome back to After the Movies, the show where we talk about movies after you've watched those movies. My name is Luke, and with me is my co-star,
Jonathan.
And today we are talking about the movie Looper, but you already knew that because we told you that before, which kind of makes this time travel thing pretty interesting. So this show is going to be almost as, clever as Looper.
Probably not.
Not even close.
Not even going to get near that. But we're going to try.
We're going to try to at least be interesting so that you feel like you're not wasting your life watching us, Sarah.
So into Looper.
Looper.
Luke, how'd you feel about Looper?
Okay, I really enjoy Looper. I will say that there were several times the first time I watched it where I was like, Ryan, what are you doing? That doesn't even make what? So, for instance, probably for me, the first thing that just totally ripped me out of the movie the first time I watched it was when the guy starts floating the quarter. And I was like, okay, so you got hover machine bike things, but, what is this? TK, who cares? And then what was even worse is that, he floats the quarter, and then, for an hour, we don't see it again. And I remember in the theater, I was like, wait a minute. Wasn't there something about, TK? What? Where? Why was that in this movie? That doesn't make any sense at all. And then that scene happened, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's what we were doing with that particular piece. So that one, that was probably the biggest one for me of just what are you doing in this movie? I don't understand. But then with that, related to that, is when she goes and hides in the safe, and I was just like, why are you hiding in the safe?
Spank that kid.
Yeah,
the kid's being rebellious,
What?
Put the foot down.
What is going on with this scene? It did not make any sense to me. And this time through the movie, I think I figured out why. Here's my hypothesis as to why that scene doesn't work, doesn't make any sense at all. Hang on to your hats, guys. This is going to be amazing. Okay, so what's happening is you've got the kid, he's starting to freak out. He's like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Mm-hmm. And then she is getting scared, and it gets kind of dark because she kind of slides back into the hallway, and her hair starts blowing, and you kind of hear this boom, boom, boom sound.
Right, the boom, boom sound.
And then she stands up in the hallway and walks away and gets into the safe and sits down.
The movie's broken.
And I lose all the sound, all the hints as to what's coming. So that's why it yanked me out of the movie. And yeah, you cut outside to Joseph and you don't have him, with the sound. That's fine. But the fact that in the moment, her there, we lose the sound, we lose any kind of motion or wind or anything. And so suddenly I'm like, okay, so she's just really scared of him. It didn't make sense at all. And I think there's a filmic reason why. That's my theory.
Interesting.
Yep.
I do think it takes you out of the mood, but the one thing I will say is I do appreciate that I couldn't figure out what was going on. Because
True.
That really, really, really helps the next moment that shows up, which plays huge. I remember being in the theater, and, you've seen the movie, right? This is after the movie. So the thing is, the guy is floating in the air, and the kid's screaming, and, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's trying to help the kid, and then Leland's like, no. I'm going to push you out of the whole entire house because this place is about to explode. That entire sequence is so well done, but yeah, it plays so much better because you just don't know.
You have no idea.
You have no idea what's about to happen. And then the guy's screaming and he starts to burst into blood. I remember being in the theater, the sound gets really, really maybe a tone, that's it, if anything.
Yep.
And I remember hearing a guy in the back of the theater be like, oh! Everyone was like, and then in the shortness of breath, the one guy was like, oh no.
Well, and what's crazy about this, okay, and this is why this movie is super intense, is that this is after we've already killed a kid.
Mm-hmm.
This is after we've already had that one particular torture scene, and you know what I'm talking about because it's horrible. To be able to get that kind of emotion for a third time in a movie, unbelievable. So from a crafting standpoint, from an execution, from a just gut level experience, this movie just delivers, and it just delivers. And I even love that you go from I expect that you think I'm gonna use a hammer and break all your fingers and do something horrible, and I'm not gonna do any of that. I'm just gonna talk at you, and it's not even gonna be that long. And then later he picks up the hammer. There are so many good moments with that I really like. So this movie, overall, from an experiential level, just solid, like solid punch to the gut over and over again. Just good job keeping it going, making like bringing it up a notch every single time. Like good job.
Mhm.
That's my thought. Yours.
Well, I really, really like this movie. I think this movie came out in 2012. I remember I'd seen like.
He looked it up right before we started this thing.
Don't tell them.
IMDb
I'm
man.
just that good. No. So we watched it. I watched it in 2012 when it came out. And I remember thinking to myself, I saw the trailer. It was like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, time travel killing. All right, I'm in. That looks cool. That might be interesting. Science fiction. I need some science fiction in my life. So I didn't really, and that's the thing. The marketing for this movie was good. Like it gave the basic premise of time travel, happen to kill yourself, kind of an action movie vibe, but it really didn't tell you anything. You had no idea there was going to be anything about TK from the trailer. Like this whole telekinesis stuff was not even mentioned in the trailer.
Which is good because again, you get like that little glimpse at the beginning, and then you don't see it for an hour and a half. So like you really shouldn't have that in the trailer. So good job.
We saw Emily Blunt. I think we even see the farmhouse. I don't remember seeing the kid in the trailer or that being a big deal.
Right.
And really, all you thought it was going to be was some sort of like paradox problem. Like, do I kill myself? Do I not kill myself? Why is he back? How do we get through this problem? And that's all there. But that's like base level. That is super base level. Like if you have trouble with time travel movies and those kinds of concepts, I'm sorry, you're screwed. Like you're not going to be in for this ride because it's awesome, but it's still really clear. And they even have the scene in the diner where it's like, let's deal with the exposition of this movie right here and right now. How are you here? Like, what's going on? How does this work?
How are we related?
And Bruce Willis is just pretty much Ryan Johnson, just tells the audience, it doesn't matter. If we tried to do this, we'd be here forever making diagrams of straws.
Which is a great line! Okay. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's really kind of a slap in the face, right? It's basically saying the exposition that everybody wants and the way to make everything make sense, screw that. We're not going to go there. He still does, though. He gives the important points. But I liked it as I don't know if it's just a filmmaker or an audience member, I don't know what, but I was just kind of like, yeah, you know what, let's not spend all our time there. It's a nice joke. But he does hit, even after that, he does talk about the important things. Well, we're connected, and I can remember what you've done, and I'm trying to save my wife, and all this, all the stuff you have to know, all the exposition you need to even get anywhere.
And even with that, though, you've got the exposition later where he's talking, where Joseph is talking to Emily, and he's like, well, I think he thinks this is going to happen, and so like. Even there, that is a really good job of hiding the exposition because you're not even saying this is the way the world works. You're letting the characters imagine how somebody else thinks the world is going to work. And because of that, it really fleshes out the world without having to be boring and dull and bad exposition. Like, good job with that, too.
That's true. It's a very good piece of exposition. But this movie is really more like 3 different movies as far as I'm concerned. Because the very beginning is kind of this gangster / time travel movie. That's what it is. It's just kind of like we're doing drugs. We're killing people from the future because we're gangsters, and now I've got this loop guy showing up, right?
Right.
The second act, which is kind of, again, into the second act, we still got a little bit of the stuff you expected, him, Bruce Willis, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt facing off and trying to deal with each other, and, you kind of expected that. But then it just halfway in the movie, if not a little earlier, the whole movie just shifts gears as far as I'm concerned. You go from like chase movie in the city, all this crazy time travel stuff to like almost a Western. Like this dry, slow burn. We're out in the house in some fields, and there's like a woman taking a good minute or two to pretend that she's smoking a cigarette. And like it's just and it's character stuff and it's good stuff, but it's everything just slows way down, which I like in one respect. But in the other respect, the second half of that, shall we say, section does begin to drag. Now there's all important pieces that are fitting together, but especially on your my third, fourth, whatever viewing this is, I love this movie. I remember sitting there being like, oh, I gotta wait for this to happen so I can get to the stuff that's really good. So it's a slow burn all of a sudden, kind of got a Western feel. Even the Gatmen, I started to realize all the Gatmen and like everyone's kind of talking with this sort of Western drawl, and it's like, interesting.
Well, she's got the drawl.
Right.
Everybody's got the drawl. Jesse's got the drawl.
It doesn't really show up or get my attention until that second act.
Well, and that's because Jesse. It's Jesse.
Yeah, it is Jesse. With Jesse's drawl really brings it all out.
Yep.
So you got this Western slow burn thing going on,
Mhm.
right? And then also apparently like horrific drama about a guy killing kids. Then
Which is like, side note.
side note. But then after that, we okay, all the way up to which I'm gonna have to ask your opinion on what that's even about. The booty call, like the random booty call between the two characters,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Yep.
So that happens, right? So you kind of get this climax of a relational tension, perhaps going on, if even that, because again, it's kind of random, like it's just kind of a booty call. Anyway, after that, the movie picks up quickly and does not let up, and it changes forms again. Then all of a sudden, we're in what's that, like anime Akira or whatever? It's like all of a sudden we're in this crazy ass world where this kid's like blowing people up with his mind, and you're like, holy crap, what? And it just
Stuff's rising off the field. People are flying around and going, like wow.
Kid puts his hand up, a car flips over. It's just
That shot was great. Okay. Yep.
Bruce Willis just goes into gets stuck in a place and then kills everyone. Just goes on a murder rampage, which was awesome. It's like, this is why you hire Bruce Willis.
Yes.
Because you totally just buy that he's just going to go in there and murder everyone. His diehard ability just showed up.
Yeah.
But again, it's like it's three different movies, but they're all, it's the same. It really is cohesive. It really does work well.
Right.
The transitions work, and they're fun and they're surprising.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's a pacing thing too, right? It's like basic introduction, fun stuff. You deliver on the promise you had going in, then change everything up while you've got people bought in. Let's slow down, get some other elements and ideas planted in people's minds, have some horrific things happen, then really pick up the pace, make things bat crazy, and just like see what happens. Climax done.
Yeah,
that's your movie.
Well, and honestly, the falling action, like I kind of like expect like Sid, and then he comes out of the and then the movie's over. But no, like then we got this wide shot as they hug. You've got the mommy thing where it's like, okay, nope, I'm really gonna accept you as my mother. You've got like, oh, here's how they're gonna actually afford to live from here on out, like, and bringing that loop back around as well of like, why has he been saving this? He's been saving it for the future. Well, what future? Whose future? Why? He offers it to his girlfriend. She doesn't take it. Like where is this money going? Boom, there it is. So like even that, like they fill out a lot of the world, even at the end there, beyond there's in the falling action there. It's really good.
It is really good, and they need that, I think, because there's this huge question basically thrown at you pretty quickly at the end of the third act of, oh crap, this kid is the Rainmaker, and holy crap, that's terrifying.
Right.
And and there's the immediate argument brought up between essentially Emily Blunt's character and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character of, well, what do we do with this kid? I'm going to kill him. He's the Rainmaker. He's destroying humanity.
Right.
And she says, counter argument, what if he's a good guy? What if he grows up good? But he's not.
But he's
the
not.
Rainmaker.
I'm from the future. Go to China. Okay, like once you know the future, what are you gonna do about it? Like that's okay.
And that's good. That's really good. So that question's brought up, and then we have an answer, right? Or I think there's an answer, and I think the answer comes in a lot through the falling action. Of course, the climax is really the big answer. But even from that, it gives you a sense of repercussions from that action. That self-sacrifice isn't just worthless. You see how even his, like you said, even his money goes to them. Even this idea of like she's accepted as mother. Everything is now suddenly reinforced in the positive direction. The thing that she had hoped for, that was an idea, that I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. But that's not where this goes, except that the climax and the falling action really sell the idea. But now there's a chance. Well, and there's a really, really good chance that it goes the positive direction.
Absolutely. And I think one of the shots, and I didn't understand it. Like, I was like, that feels out of place at this point in the movie the first time. But this time, it's like she goes when he's dead, and she does the little hair,
the hair
and then it cuts to the kid with similar hair laying on the bed, and it's like, the mother is going to be there, and it's not going to break him. It's not going to be this thing. Yeah.
And that's a huge theme in this movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, the huge themes, I noticed this for the first time. So, not the first time. You obviously tell the first time you watch this movie, hopefully, that basically mothers are a big deal in this movie. Like, that's the thing. Even Bruce Willis' wife, they talk about wanting to have kids, and how does she get killed? She gets shot in the stomach. Like, it's all this stuff about moms and sons, and like the idea of being ripped apart, and how that always, like, how they lay long for that, they need that, but in this broken world, there's no chance for that, it seems. Everyone's just broken people. The moms are lost. The sons are lost. Like, it's just terrible. The dads aren't even mentioned, except that I noticed this time, the only time fathers are really mentioned are grandfathers. And they're mentioned twice.
Yeah.
And they always have something wise or useful.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. I don't know why. Like, it's the kind of the classic dad's out of the home and he's just a screwed up. Why?
Right.
Because apparently it's the cycle loop thing.
Yep.
Ryan doesn't discuss where it came from. He just says, we're in a cycle now
Yep.
where dads get with moms, dads disappear because they're just as
Yep.
broken as their sons are going to be.
Yep.
Moms are disappear eventually, and then sons become broken because they have no parents at all.
Yep.
And that then continues the cycle, right?
Yep.
But there was a time long ago, grandfather style, right? My grandfather was around, where he built things to make safety. Where he gave you wisdom that you actually still use today, even if you're the bad guy. Like,
Yep.
grandfathers are somehow like really important. It's kind of, I don't know, it just kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So moms are really, really important. That's the focus and the thrust. But dads are kind of important too. But it's like they've lost that too. It's way back in the day that was a big deal, and they're kind of still, all the men are still trying to cling on to that in some way, shape, or form. They're using it to their advantage. Anyway, all that being said, it's a good movie. Let's just get into complaints real quick.
Let's do it. Let's do
I have
complaints.
a few complaints. One, I think the motorcycle stuff is stupid. The floating motorcycle, I don't like the design. I think it's stupid. Like, it's a future thing. It doesn't really matter. It's got a nice little, I guess, payoff for the kill at the end, but I think it's stupid.
Yep.
I don't really like it.
Completely agree. Totally. In fact, the first, like, not only was the TK thing working me out, but I was like, flying cars, why is this in this movie? Like, screw that. Okay, no. So I agree with you completely. Terrible. Doesn't
In fact, I think the biggest sign of that is when, it really annoys me the most, when it's Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt facing off, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's getting closer and closer to shooting him, and it's this tension moment, and then it's broken by, like, I don't mind that the character interrupts, because that fits the Kid Blues character.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't like, it was just so cheesy to me that he showed up on a freaking floating motorcycle. Like, it's almost laughable. It's like, what? But it's still a great movie, and I'll give it that. So anyway,
that
floating motorcycle, no good. No good.
Totally agree.
Random lens flares that are super blue.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's all about.
In fact, I've watched it like DVD. Like, watching it, but I think it was Blu-ray, and like, for whatever reason, it felt really sharp blue. Like,
I feel like they color
really
corrected it or
bad.
something. Like they did something.
Yeah.
It's a stylistic choice, I think. If not,
I don't even know.
Someone screwed the pooch on those shots.
Totally noticed it this movie too, and I was like,
And that's the thing. It's not consistent. Like,
Nope.
it's not and I'm thankful for that. It's not like all the way through, but it's not a J.J. Abrams. It's not everywhere. But it's in the beginning of the most, and it does show up in the city with some of the helicopters and stuff. But it's just kind of random. At least with the helicopters, since they're in movement, it shows up quickly and it disappears. Fine, great, whatever.
Yep.
But it's this one scene when his friend, Paul Dano, goes to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's apartment at night.
Yep.
And it's the important sequence where it's like, crap's about to hit the fan and get terrible and get horrific.
And then it's like right over their face. It's
right.
blue.
He opens the fridge to have some light, and there's this blue line like right over Joseph Gordon. And it's
over him.
It's like, what the freak is going on?
Yeah.
Why is that the choice? Is it a choice? Why? I don't understand. So I didn't like that.
I'll give you that one too. Totally. Yep.
Third thing for me, perhaps the biggest problem after seeing it multiple times, I already mentioned it, is that the movie begins to drag. You've got a really good, really fun first act. You get into the second act, which I would say is about basically when Bruce Willis shows up for the first time. I'd say that's your crossover, because you've got all this introduction. Everything's starting, and then we're kind of entering the next phase of everything. We're crossing the threshold. We can't go back from this. We've got a new catalyst.
I would move that. I'd probably move that to the library when he goes to get the kids' names, and we kind of know then what his next move is, and then we move out of the city directly after that.
It could be at the farmhouse. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, point being is Bruce Willis shows up, right?
Yep.
And it's still a lot of fun. There's a lot of things going on. It's a lot of the fun and games, the things you've been promised are starting to show up, right? Then we get in the second act, like I talked about, the slowing down phase in the farmhouse, which is actually good for a breather, a chance to kind of get your bearings, but also kind of like what's going on.
Yep.
What are these characters planning to do?
Build mystery. Good. Yep.
Right? And then I don't necessarily know exactly when it starts. I do remember thinking about it very vividly when Bruce Willis is going to look for Kid to Kill number 2, which ends up being his old stripper girlfriend's kid
that he wanted to have leave with half his money so that the kid could be safe. Like, that is the brilliance of that, right?
Right. And
his tension is that he actually cared about this girl and this kid, but now
Now
Okay,
what
so
do
that
you
was
do?
good. So
Right.
good. Okay.
But
Yep.
see, it's a great moment. But at that point, when he's starting to find out, I realized I was thinking to myself, and again, I've watched this multiple times. The first time it wasn't necessarily bothering to me, but multiple times I'm like, you know, like I'm just waiting for what I know is going to be so good, which is essentially Jesse and the kid and the explosion. Like, and I know from that point on, this movie just rolls.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of waiting for that. And from Bruce Willis to the booty call is stuff that's got maybe a few good moments, a few good interesting things, but it's also got some stuff that I'm like, why? Like, I don't understand the booty call. I don't get it. Like, it's kind of this, I'm guessing it's this idea she's kind of got, she's got the cigarette thing. It's like she used to live that life. She's got the addiction thing going on where she's rejected all of that to be with her son, but she still feels it like any person feels those problems even after they're sober. And so it was kind of like it makes sense, okay, but why is that a part of the story? Why is that a thing? And I remember now I had a chance to go see this movie at Alamo Drafthouse, and Ryan Johnson was in attendance. He actually did a live commentary, and it was really awesome. Yes. And he specifically mentioned in that sequence, he talked about how he tried very hard to make sure that even though he had them connect and do that, which even from his perspective, as far as I could tell, he wasn't necessarily like a very specific reason for it. I think he was just indulging what he thought the characters would do. But he wanted to be very careful with it that he didn't make it romantic. Because he wanted it to be that when Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character makes the selfless choice, it really truly is selfless. It's not suddenly a selfish thing like Bruce Willis' character has. It is very much, he's not going to necessarily get with this girl or be a father figure or get anything out of this. Truly, his sacrifice is utterly selfless. It's a decision that's totally opposite than every decision he's been making beforehand. Slowly progressing towards, which is brilliant and good. But then again, it's like, so then why did you even go to that territory to begin? Like, I don't necessarily know why that scene exists, so to speak, except to maybe get them, obviously to get them closer together. But at the same time, he doesn't want them to be romantic. So it's kind of like, I guess maybe, he wants his cake and to eat it too. Is kind of maybe the vibe I get, but it doesn't. It does. It works. Like the movie still works even with that scene. Even if that scene's bad, it still works, and it gives you a chance of exposition too, which is pillow talk. Right. They do some pillow talk, and it's basically again sets up. She's TK. She's actually pretty good. More best we've ever seen. Which hint. Yeah. This kid's crazy.
I would say
and
that
it's the mom thing too, right?
Totally the mom thing. I would say that there's a couple pieces with that scene in particular. I mean, so one, she initiates, right? So that makes it so it's not just about it's not about this connect. It's about her just feeling a need for something. So yeah, I think it's a jonesing. It's a addiction. It's a going back to that moment. In fact, then she actually has a cigarette again. Where'd she get it? Was it his? Is she using him just to feed all these things? And yes, I would say that is the case. So you've got part of that with it. I think yes, you've also got the plant of hey, here this is. It's also reminding you of these frog things, so that when you got the shot, of like, hey, there's somebody in the house, just come downstairs and like the lights going, so I think it's setting up several.
Although that was earlier though.
Oh, was that the earlier?
We already saw the frog do that because it was planted early enough because of the kid giving it to him.
No, right. I think this is a reminder, though. I think this is to bring us back to that because it's been a little while. Stuff has happened. I think that's partly what it's supposed to be doing. Okay. But I think it's mostly just developing her as to who she is and kind of again giving us this like, what is she driving for? What are her desires? What does she want? Because we already know that she doesn't want to hurt people. But at the same time, she feels a desperate passion to protect her kid. And so this might even be hey, maybe you're a good guy and maybe I get to keep you around. So maybe it's more about her desire of what she wants.
What she wants for that.
Rather than Joseph.
It does give, even if you're not wanting the romantic thing there, because of the fact that, it's sex. So the fact that it's going to automatically make you think a potential romantic connection, potential, and I think you desire, especially in this world where everything's so broken and the whole... From the get-go, the whole problem of I don't have a mom, and no one's got moms, no one's got, everyone's screwed up. You see a sense of this potential family unit, right? Like, he works well with the kid, the kid likes him, and she and him are starting to have a connection, and then they have sex, and then so you're like, okay, maybe this is a family coming together.
Right.
And I don't know. So it's again, I think if he's trying to go non-romantic, it's like it's totally, it's even if it's not pushed and it's supposed to be kind of a distance, which again helps the
Yep.
self-sacrifice. It's still there.
But that I don't know if that's bad. I think it's I think it's a little bit weird, but at the same time, I think the idea of potential family, could this work, is a good question. It's a good thing to lay out there and to bring into
It's
this
true.
world as a potential
It's a
thing.
good vision thing, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's the movie spends a lot of time talking about bad roads, right?
Yep.
Like what Jeff Daniels' character talking to him said, "I saw you on a bad road and I fixed it by putting a gun in your hand," which
Right.
is funny.
Great line.
But it's somewhat true, right? He's like, I cleaned you up and made sure
Yep.
you weren't at least a vagrant, right?
Right.
I cleaned you up as far as I knew how to do.
Yep.
And obviously at the very end, it's like, how do I fix this problem? I see a
Right.
bad path for the kid, for
Yep.
all of us, so I changed it. There's a lot of that going on in this movie, but there's also a lot of these plants of potential
Right.
what could be good.
Right.
And I remember especially the first times I watched it, when the kid blows a dude up and the whole and you're like, holy crap, everything's going to everything's going insane. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt, rightfully so, is like, I'm gonna go stop this kid.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna go end this right now. And she says, but what if he was good, right? Like it's a line of dialogue. It's obviously her perspective. There's a lot of reasons for it, but I remember being in the theater and being like, oh crap, yeah. Like what if he was good? Like
Yeah.
that's if you took a second and thought about it. You give that guy with all the power. It's a savior thing, right? It's
Yep.
a savior complex. He's either the end of the world or he's the savior of it.
Right.
So she's like, what if he's the savior of the world? Essentially, it's like, yeah, what if? Like that would
Right.
be that's hope. That's a
Yep.
possibility.
And then you go through the corn and you find a kid covered in blood with a tear streak. You know,
right,
like,
and it really, it's powerful, and it's
Yeah.
it really makes sense that in that moment, if you saw a kid who had done something horrible, basically actually feeling guilt about it,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, maybe there's hope.
Right.
I don't feel okay. I gotta try something else, which is again, it's part of why I love this movie. Again, that third act, that whole motion is just really solid. The only thing that throws me out is that stupid motorcycle and Kid Blue. But Kid Blue's throwing everything off, which is his character. So there you
that's
go.
entirely his
Then we
purpose.
killed him, and I was like, good job. Let's move on.
Okay, I will say one other piece that I think would have, like, if we just made it a little just a little tighter. Again, I'm the guy who's like, okay, make it faster, come on, get there. But I think a lot of the Gatman stuff, and especially Kid Blue's arc, and I get why he's there. I understand why he is there. It's like he's the kid without the father figure, without the mother, without but he wants his dad to
His
be
father
proud of it.
figure,
Like,
yeah.
fine, I get all that. But I think we spend too much time with that whole end of the world. Like, we already understand that world. We got that in the first act. It was fast. It was fun. We got it. We understand it. It's really interesting. So now when we slow down and we're in this section of the movie and now we're kind of focusing on them, I'm like, come on, get back to Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Like, get back to the stuff that we care about. And even, honestly, seeing Bruce Willis in the sewers, like, 3 times, like, I don't need to see this again. I get it. Like let's just move to the pieces that matter. And so I think if we cut out some of that, I think it wouldn't have dragged as much. And it's just my feeling as to how that could have been cut better.
It's true. There's probably some stuff that some loose change you can get rid of there. But at the same time, thinking now, having you mentioned the Kid Blue arc and the idea of the father figure approval thing, that's not that I'm not an expert on gangs or whatnot, but from my understanding, that's a huge drive for why
Absolutely.
you do what you do in a gang.
Yeah.
It's a brotherhood thing. It's a fatherhood
Family.
thing, like approval thing, right?
Yep.
So it's very much, especially if you get a bunch of dudes in a gang, it's like there's the alpha male guy who's your older brother, father figure, and you're trying to live up to whatever he wants. You want his approval, and you'll do whatever it takes to get it. And it's the father figure turned wrong, right? It's absolutely and that's what's going on with Kid Blue and Abe and all these other things going on. And it's also interesting because it's this idea of Ryan Johnson, even talked about. I know because I was there when he talked about it. When he said,
okay. I was in a room with someone who was important once. Love me.
Okay. No, so he mentioned that a big idea, a big thrust and theme behind it for him with the whole loop and the idea of this was the cycle of violence. And so he talked about how he, even himself has felt the need, like, oh man, there's so much crap in the world. If only there was, the bad guy. If only I could just go kill the bad guy and be done with it. And how real life is just not that simple.
Right.
violence often, and most often, begets violence.
Yeah.
It's only, I would argue personally there's times for it, but even then, it's usually miserable and awful and ugly.
Green Street Hooligans, right there. I mean, that is a modern example of like revenge culture, just well done.
So, right, and so the thing is, like, violence is not like going and murdering or killing or whatever is not generally a solution to the problem.
Right.
And you may want it to be, but it's not. So you've got, and that's the thing. It's like all the male characters are trying to get approval and or are trying to protect or get something they want, especially Bruce Willis, right, being the key figure. He's trying to get what he wants by murder, by killing.
Right.
And specifically, I will go kill the bad guy. I will go kill the Rainmaker. He's the evil one. I'm going to go kill him. But we also know the Rainmaker is actually on a vengeance streak, right? Because of what, that's
because
the whole
point. Looper did something.
That's the loop, right? The cycle of violence, how it begets itself. And what's the moment that is changing of everything? It's when the male figure, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, picks up a clue from the female, who's Emily Blunt, and that's the way she gets him to calm down, right? The kid to calm down. She, instead of trying to be a authority figure or whatever, she instead takes the "I love you, it's okay" approach, right? Like, I love you beyond, no matter how screwed up or broken or whatever this is, I love you. And that's a powerful moment too, right? Because I'm all about authority and obedience and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, there's something about, you got to know first and foremost before that, there's just love. You got to know there's something much deeper than that, that's in causing those things. And so he picks up the play from her, so to speak. Females are known, maybe, I don't know, this unit, I'm doing film schools, reaching stuff, but obviously it's like the compassion thing. He's got the hair, he remembers his mom being compassionate. He wants that love, he wants that feeling. But no male figure does that.
Nope.
Until he does it at the end. And he doesn't do it by, like, loving the kid or hugging the kid. Oh, there's a little bit of that, right? He doesn't really do that. The way he shows love is by self-sacrifice, right? That's the thing. He takes that role and he says, okay, this is the natural progression. I can't murder to make it right, but I can sacrifice everything in a loving act, so to speak, to make things right. That's the only thing I can do. And it's a great character arc. I love that character arc, but it's also kind of a reclamation in that world for the male figure to not be the guy who's going and causing problems, but instead it's the guy who's willing to sacrifice everything to fix the problem, to give a chance. So I love that. That's really, really good stuff, which is why this movie really hit home for me the first few times. It's still really powerful. It's just now I get caught up in some of the time travel wonky stuff, and I'm like, does that really work? I don't know. Whatever. I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah, and speaking of that time travel thing, I really like this thought that I just had, which was that he's got like this double time travel loop thing looping through, which I thought was really, really cool. And again, I didn't understand. I was like, what is going on when I was in the theater? Because you've got like this part where like Bruce Willis lives and like turns around and gets shot in the back, so I can hit him and he does this, and then he's standing there again, and I was like, dream, right? Okay, no, because then he kills. Okay, so but then he's the guy who comes back, and now we're having this moment again. So there's like this double loop through time that's happening, which I think that's the first time I've seen it in a movie where like there's a dual existence thing happening kind of simultaneously, but not at all in this whole thing. So I really liked that as an element where one time he shoots himself there, and then the next time he has to shoot himself there, right? And so that brings up this theme that we know from the very beginning, right? Loopers close their loops. They have to kill themselves. Like that's what you have to do. And so the question in this movie at the end is, do you kill yourself in the most selfish way possible so that you can get your good payday and that's your job and like you're going to do this and you're going to go live however you want. You're going to end up meeting this girl who's going to save your worthless butt. Or are you going to kill yourself in a sacrificial way to stop the madness? And I liked that. Like the double loop and then therefore the double question of, since you have to kill yourself, what's the right way to do so? Which is kind of funny that like it's asking the question, what is the correct way to kill yourself? I think that's brilliant. Like, and yet really weird and messed up. But brilliant.
Totally random. Just gonna throw that out there. Yeah. Again, might be reaching really hard here.
Uh-oh.
But the title of Looper, because that's the thing. Rian Johnson, like especially in this movie, I don't sense that he doesn't waste I don't
Right.
sense this. I mean, he might drag in places for
Mhm.
me, at least in multiple viewings, but I don't sense the waste. That's part of a good filmmaker, right?
Yeah.
He's paying attention. He makes very conscientious, deliberate choices.
And you have the edit bay to cut stuff out if you're like, that didn't quite work. Okay, yeah.
Now you've got the just I'm talking about the title card when Looper
Mhm.
shows up in the very beginning, right? Now, I almost always write up any title,
Mhm.
anything like as a total just effect, like okay, they just wanted a cool effect to be like check it out,
Right.
and then we go into the movie.
Right.
But now you talk about this double loop thing being the way to get around the paradox problem, and it's a circle that becomes two circles. It's overlapping, then becomes a looper. I wonder if that's just a little visual.
I'd totally give that. I would put that with like the bird, where's his brother from that other movie, So like I could see that.
So anyway, I know.
Yeah.
So that's again, Ryan Johnson does a great job. I mean, I do love some of his films, and
Right.
I guess this month he starts principal photography on Star Wars Episode 8. The Star Wars Episode 7 has not even come out yet, and he's starting principal photography later this month on Star Wars 8. Hopefully he's not too mean, because Looper's a hard go through. I'm just letting you know. Like, let's just recount real quick what you have to go through to get Looper. First and foremost, the world sucks. Everyone's like, the world just sucks. Just depressing. People are getting murdered. I do love that. I love that the very first shot is like chill, learning French. Some guy shows up screaming, it's shot. It's so jarring, and like even when you know it's coming, you're like, oh geez, holy crap. And then
lots of murder.
Hard
drugs.
Hard drugs. Dude, okay.
Your girlfriend is bought out by the
other guy because she's a whore because this world sucks.
Yeah, that's rough.
Okay, of course, the torture sequence, which is not a torture sequence, but is all at the same time. It's actually just a sequence of a guy trying to get back in time.
Oh.
You talk about the perfect combination of seeing something that like scares you, but at the same time leaving it all to your imagination.
Yeah, I know. Okay, and the totally imagination. Like, here's the thing. Like, here's how he shot that, right? So you've got a shot of his hands, and then the next shot, he's just like, but they've already cut. Like, you never see it disappear, right?
There's one time
with the leg.
No, well, it was all at the very beginning. I noticed I was looking for it this time, right? He's climbing the fence.
Yep.
He's got all four fingers.
Oh, does
there.
he? Okay.
And it's probably as simple as a color correction.
Yeah.
They just make it black.
Yep. It just goes away.
It just goes away. And he's like, wait a minute.
Right.
And I'm like,
yeah. It's but just again and again, like it's just, and then he brings up his hand and now he's got 3 fingers, and then we cut and he's got
and then everything he does, like he's trying to drive somewhere, so what do? They take away his feet so he can't drive, so he crashes. He gets out of the car, he's trying to yell to stop, and his tongue's gone.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like, it's horrible.
It's horrible.
And then you think about the compounding effect of he's got to live that long.
Yep.
Right? They didn't kill him.
Right.
So he's just this. Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's
terrible.
Horrible. Yeah, it's terrible. So you have to live through that.
You gotta get through that.
Is insane. And the thing is, like, you watch the movie, you get done, you're like, wow, that was pretty cool. That was like, wow, he shot himself. Like, what the crap? And then you're like, oh, but then there was that torture scene.
It always shows up like it's always this way with these great movies where I'm like, wow, that was really impactful. I really appreciated that, even with all the crap I had to go through. But I always forget about the crap. I mitigate it, right? Like I forget about it. Then I go home to my family or like some friend, and I'm like, hey, this is a really good movie. Let's watch it. And then we start watching, and I'm like, are you okay getting scarred for life? Because that's definitely about to happen.
So we're watching this movie, and it's really cool, but before we go too much further,
I think it's worth it.
Are you okay with being irrevocably destroyed in your soul? Just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, so then of course we got the kid killing, and you have to kill that kid, because if you don't kill that kid, then the next scene doesn't make sense, and the end doesn't make sense. So you have to kill the kid. Like, it makes sense. And this time I really appreciated that he kills the kid, and then he like stumbles out, and then there's like a woman pushing the baby, and then there's like kids playing in the background, and like it's just kids are everywhere at that moment, and you're just like, oh, just like twist that knife a little bit harder, why don't you? Like,
it's also for your first time viewing. Like, I remember being there and being like, dude, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you're a jerk. Like,
right.
Like, I get how I'm in your shoes, but man, you're a jerk. You're just selfish. Then Bruce Willis shows up, and he seems, for the most part, to be pretty unselfish. Like he seems at least be wiser, right? He's like, "You're an idiot. You're a
Shut
jerk.
up, kid. Yeah.
You're a druggie. Like she's gonna clean you up." Like he's got this appreciation for love, right?
Yep. And life.
And life. And then he goes and he kills a kid, and you're like, I can no longer root for you. Like I cannot follow you. Like I'm sympathetic, sort of, but you just killed a kid, and then you realize how selfish he is, right?
Yeah.
Like it's that same thing you've already seen with Joseph Gordon-Levitt with the mom. It's really the mom complex, selfishly getting it again later in life. And he's not learned how to be selfless at all, as more as he's just, I can't lose that.
He has progressed in his selfishness, and he's hidden it better, but he still has it. He hasn't grown himself as a character. He's just gotten better at hiding stuff, which honestly, as a person who knows humanity and experiences it, like, I just get better at hiding my issues too.
Right, but that's the thing though too. It's a really good. I think it's not, the movie isn't about this, but it poses an interesting question of what's the harder sacrifice? Because I always think about this when I think about Looper, because Looper is, I love it. I love movies like this where it's all, there's a lot of movies about a character who's crappy or a jerk or selfish or whatever, who gets redeemed usually by, because since it's a movie and you want a climax, usually a big climactic moment where it's like, and then he's redeemed and you're like, yeah. But life is more like, you know, the question for me is, I would bet that Bruce Willis would be willing to die for his wife, right?
Absolutely.
And he'd be willing to. But the thing is he willing to live without her?
Right.
Right? Like, is he willing to make that sacrifice? Now, it's obviously she's ripped away from him.
Right.
And it's horrible and it's wrong and all that. But the question still remains, like, that's a real test of character. The question isn't necessarily, you know, you always think about it in the movies, especially of, I would die for the woman I love, or she would die for me, or like all this stuff. That's great. And, you know, there is no greater love than to sacrifice one's life. But what does it mean to sacrifice? Sacrificing in a moment and sacrificing the death is huge. But living in a sacrifice of sorts, that's even harder. That's even more. And he couldn't do it. He actually becomes so selfish in that moment. He couldn't live without her. So he was willing to die for her, but that's almost the easy way out. Like, it's kind of fascinating. Like, again, nothing against being willing to die for someone, but the movie kind of illustrates in a crazy way the idea of how it is harder to live beyond that, and how you can suddenly become selfish and lose a lot of what you maybe gained and didn't realize you had in you at that moment. So, again, willing to die for something, that's huge. Willing to live in a crappy state for something else, like or to handle it, that's even harder.
Well, and that's what makes, even if we look at, you know, recent current events, like the people who are willing to be like, you know what, you killed somebody who is important to me, and I'm going to let that go. I'm not going to hold on to that. Like, that is huge. That is transformative in some people's lives. Other people are like, nope, don't care, and, you know, go on their rampage anyway. But there's something about that level of grace for somebody else, that willingness to, like, lay aside your stuff, like, that is, that's huge. And that's even in Looper with killing kids.
Yes, and see, and it's those kinds of thoughts and the good filmmaking craft and all that makes this movie one of my favorites. It was definitely, I think it was probably my favorite of that year. It's a really, really good movie, and it makes me excited to hope and see, you know, hopefully we're not going through torture scenes and terrifying things in Star Wars, but, you know, Rian Johnson, really excellent in his craft. I look forward to seeing that next Star Wars film, see what he does with it, because he's clever, he's smart, he's really good at his craft. Yeah. And he's bringing, at least in his own projects, he brings up some very interesting ideas, some very human issue ideas. Yeah. So anyway, I love Looper. I have my few issues with it, but it's a really, really good movie. Yeah. Well, Star Wars. It could be. Well, he's got the Empire Strikes Back too, right? Like, he's got the middle one, which is traditionally been the darker one.
Chop off hands and
chopping off of the hands. I am your father. Yeah. Life just blows usually in that story.
This could be good. Okay, well, you know,
really good.
So we'll see. But this is Looper. Thank you guys for watching. I'm supposed to click this button here. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Thank you for joining us for After the Movies. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we will talk to you again soon.